Good morning and welcome back to Football League World TV. It's the end of another week, which means it's time for the EFL weekend preview. We're going to be looking at fixtures from across the Championship, League One and League Two coming up this weekend. I'm your host, Alfie Burns. I'm delighted to be joined again by my colleague, Marcus. Marcus, how are you getting on this morning?
Yeah, really well, thanks, Alfie. It all feels like it's getting a bit serious now. We've had our first managerial departure in the Championship, and yeah, it is really getting crunch time for those clubs that have started a little bit slowly. So, no, looking forward to talking about the games we've got planned.
Yeah, it's always hectic at this time of year with the fixtures on, the transfer window coming to a close. So a lot to talk about, but focus for us on the fixtures. We're streaming across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter this morning. If you're joining us and you want to get yourselves in the comments with your predictions, it'll be great to hear from you. We'll look to get them up on the show. As always, then, we'll kick things off with the Championship and we'll go with tonight's game between Luton Town and Sheffield United in front of the Sky Sports cameras at Kenilworth Road. We'll start with the home side, Luton, then, Marcus. Been a fairly slow start for Nathan Jones' side after such an impressive 2021-22 campaign, but they picked up their first win of the season on the road at Swansea last time out in the Championship. I think tonight it's an opportunity for them to build on that and sort of get back to what we expect of Luton at Kenilworth Road.
Yeah, certainly. I think this is the type of occasion that Nathan Jones tends to really rally the troops for. We saw a lot of the really eye-catching performances they put in at Kenilworth Road last season, beating Nottingham Forest towards the back end of the season and sort of stunting their automatic promotion hopes is one that sticks out for me. And obviously, given that the Blades are right at the top of the tree and really looking menacing, particularly on their home turf, should only motivate Luton more and give them more to put into it. I think it was a very important win to get that first one of the season at Swansea last time out. There have been some good performances, but not quite hitting the heights that we saw last season, and maybe feeling the loss of Cal Naismith in that back line still. But no, it's a huge positive for them in South Wales. Obviously, Carlton Morris coming off the bench and getting up and running for the club as well could be something that we see as a potentially something of a turning point in the coming weeks. So no, a really exciting challenge for them, and I think it's one that they'll relish.
Yeah, Nathan Jones as well, sort of stirring the pot a little bit, talking about the league table with Sheffield United sitting top. So from a Luton perspective, a really exciting game to look forward to and potentially get a good scalp under their belt early doors. It's a good scalp because Sheffield United have had a really good start to the season. We'll come on to the Blades now. They've been formidable at home with 3 wins from 3. They are still searching for that first away victory of the season, but nevertheless, Paul Heckingbottom's side sitting top of the table after 5 fixtures. Let's just discuss their away form then, Marcus. They are so good at home, but why do you think it is that the results just quite haven't been there away from home so far this season?
Small sample size, just 2 matches. Starting your season on the road against Watford and Middlesbrough is very tough anyway. There's an argument that 1 point from those 2 games isn't too bad anyway. I know Borough have started poorly, but performance-wise, that they've been okay. The Watford match as well was pretty even, and they got done on the counter-attack. So I think it's important not to read too much into that at this stage. Obviously, their home form was the strongest suit last season as well. So maybe the way they've started suggests a continuation of that. But I don't think matches at Watford and Middlesbrough to start the season is enough to really judge their away form on just yet. They've got such an array of attacking talent that the Heckingbottom can rotate around. And yeah, I don't see a significant drop off between their home performances and away performances, or that to be something that we should expect, given that it's just been 2 away games that we've got to sort of see them in so far.
Do you think there's the confidence there to get that away victory tonight then at Luton?
Absolutely. Such a dominant performance against Blackburn last time out, a 3-0 win, and it could have been more really, and getting some confidence into a player like Iliman and Dye, who we know when on song is right up there in terms of forwards in this division. Good to see Ollie McBurney back in and around it after troubling sort of last season in front of goal and in terms of injuries. So yeah, I think the Blades are in a really good position to go to Kenilworth Road, which is still, despite their slow start to the season, one of the tougher away days in the Championship, and give a really good account of themselves.
Let's get your prediction then, Marcus.
I'm tempted to go for a Blades victory, but I just think the spirit that Luton have on their home turf under the lights, it's going to be a tricky one. So I'm going to go for an entertaining 2-2 draw.
Yeah, I kind of feel a little bit like that. I think if this had been a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, I might have gone with a Sheffield United win, but Friday night at Kenilworth Road, and I think that Luton might get something. I've gone 1-1. Moving on to tomorrow's game between Blackburn and Stoke. Then this is probably a game that 24 hours ago I might not have had on the schedule to discuss, but given Michael O'Neill has left Stoke, I feel like we should throw this game in. But we will come on to Stoke in just a moment and start with Blackburn. As you've just touched on there, Marcus, they were beaten 3-0 by Sheffield United last time out, and that followed a 3-0 defeat at Reading. So back-to-back 3-0 away defeats for Rovers, which has spoiled what was a perfect start to the season and 9 points from 9. Heading back to Ewood Park, there needs to be a little bit of a reaction, doesn't there, from Blackburn?
Definitely, it's a nice sort of test of what sort of hold over the squad Jon Dahl Tomasson has at this really early stage. They really weren't at the races at Bramall Lane. I know we've spoken about how good Sheffield United have been, but I just had a glance at the shot count making my notes for this, and I think it was something like 23-3 for the Blades. It really was so dominant as the scoreline hinted towards, and that sort of came off the back of a really disappointing display at Reading as well. So yeah, that they need to prove that they're made of sterner stuff. Obviously, lost a lot of key players in the summer. Could end up potentially being Brereton Diaz's last game for Blackburn, depending on how the transfer window pans out. But yeah, it's going to be a real test, particularly given the sort of renewed motivation potentially at Stoke City. Obviously, there's plenty of confidence to take from their positive starts to the season, and there should be some remaining of that. The trip to Bramall Lane potentially isn't a match that they would have been expecting to pick up too many points from anyway. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they're at, because we've seen Stoke's attacking quality at times this season. It's a very capable squad, and it's be an interesting measure of where exactly Rovers are at given their start to the season and the recent drop off.
On to Stoke capable squad then, not been performing at the standard expected of them for quite a while now under Michael O'Neill, and it's cost O'Neill his job. It was announced yesterday that he'd be leaving the Bet365 stadium. A host of names are in the mix to succeed O'Neill at Stoke, but I think I'm right in saying it's Dean Holden leading the Potters into tomorrow's fixture. Really hard to know what to expect from Stoke heading to Blackburn then. Do you feel like this is a good time for Blackburn to be playing Stoke, a bad time for Blackburn to be playing Stoke, or just we can't tell at this stage?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't tend to sort of believe in a new manager bounce as much as some people. I think often when we see that, it's due to performances being better than results and the manager being sacked, and then the results turn as potentially they would have done had they stuck with the previous manager anyway. But as I said, yeah, the squad is much more capable than the league finishes that they've produced in the last couple of seasons, and even the way that they've started this season. I think it's just 4 points from the opening 5 games for the Potters. Jacob Brown has showed that he's still capable of leading their attack, as he did very competently last season. Definitely should be a goal threat, along with plenty of other players that they've been able to add to the squad. It's a really exciting job for someone to take on, given the potential in the squad. I think Lewis Baker has been arguably one of the best players in the Championship since arriving from Chelsea last January. Potentially a player who I think has a captain's armband now that they could look to build the team around, and seems to be taking up some leadership qualities as he's finally sort of settled down in senior football. Very tough to predict how they're going to get on under Dean Holden, but I would expect potentially a little bit more endeavour, given the ongoings at the Bet365 stadium this week.
Difficult to predict, but we've got to do it. So let's get your prediction then, Marcus.
I'm not feeling great about Blackburn at the moment, to be honest. I think they're way off in terms of their squad building and the squad depth that you need. to hit your targets over 46 games. So I'm going to predict a 2-1 Stoke victory. I think that they've been fairly reliable for a goal so far this season anyway. And yeah, if Blackburn perform as poorly as they have done at Reading, at Sheffield United, then I think it's going to be a tough game.
I've gone the other way. I've gone 2-1 Blackburn. I think that we might see Stoke's struggles continue until they get O'Neill's permanent successor in. So there'll be news of that, I'm sure, over the weekend and coming into next week. Moving up to the Riverside Stadium then, Middlesbrough versus Swansea. Another really interesting fixture. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this game was we've got Middlesbrough sitting 23rd in the table, and I think there's a lot of belief that they can turn things around under Chris Wilder. And the Downers odds-on favourite for this fixture, and it really sort of caught my eye, did that. Does that surprise you, Marcus, given the start to the season and the unpredictable nature of the Championship?
Not at all, to be honest. These days, odds are based off performance data more than results anyway, and Boroughs has still been pretty strong. Obviously, yeah, they've got a way to go to turn it around, and a lot of players to sort of integrate into that starting 11 or the first team squad, given that they've sort of left their transfer business quite late. But I think they're definitely rightful favourites against Swansea. Plenty of performances where their finishing has let them down, quite frankly. And yeah, I think a Swansea side that's been underperforming themselves provides a good opportunity for Wilder's men to get up and running. We saw just how good they were on their day last season, were at times potentially a threat to automatic promotion, and then really slowed up towards the back end of the campaign. So no, the odds don't really surprise me at the moment. Despite their disappointing first 5 games, I think they've definitely still got the players and the performances in terms of creating chances in the final third to really kick on and get up and running in style. Yeah,
it's a funny one really with Middlesbrough, because although they're lower than Swansea in the table, there is that little bit more confidence and belief and positivity just sort of floating around the club, given how active they are in the transfer window. Let's talk about Swansea then. It's been a pretty flat start to the season for Russell Martin's side, and personally I expected a little bit more of them coming into this season after the promise that they showed under Martin last year. What's your kind of feeling with Swansea at the minute, Marcus?
Well, again, I think the slow start's being blown out of proportion a little bit. They should win at Rotherham on the opening day. We saw the sitter that Michael Obafemi missed, a tap-in that would have got them off to a perfect start. And then also they would have had back-to-back wins if it wasn't for 2 own goals in injury time at home to Millwall a couple of weeks back. And I think that would have put a totally different reflection on where they are this season. Obviously, the points tallies are so close at this stage of the season that they would have been much higher up the league had they held on there. So yeah, I think this is being read into a little too much. I still fully believe in the project that Russell Martin's putting in place there. He hasn't been backed in the transfer market as much as he would have liked, but a side that came down from the Premier League, I think sort of 4 seasons ago or something like that, it does become a very difficult financial climate. And so he does have his hands tied behind his back a little bit in that respect. I think heading into this season, the squad isn't as strong as it finished last season. So there's still a little way to go there. So it's still early days for me. I'm still pretty confident that Swans can have a good season. They were up and down last season, and despite finishing strongly, and this season's kind of started in the same vein that one did. So yeah, I think at this stage of the season, it's just 1 win on the board, but they would have been disappointed not to beat Rotherham and Millwall when they ended up picking up draws. So yeah, I think they're definitely potentially a side that will be competing higher up in the division just once they're able to get over this tricky early period.
Let's get your prediction for this game then, Mark, because I'm interested to hear what you've got to say now.
Yeah, I was sort of tossing and turning on this one. I can see arguments for both sides, so I've landed on a 1-1 draw. I think Borough are rightful favourites, and yeah, potentially could go on to get the win. But I think the amount of time it's gone on now, and the concerning performance at Rotherham last weekend, there could potentially be some nerves if they do go ahead, and it's lots of new forwards to have to gel, even if they are creating the chances with the likes of Hoppy, Force, and Rodrigo Muniz not having much time at all to get up to speed and get used to their new teammates. I think there could still be some teething problems in the final third. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw.
I was on a show earlier this week talking up Middlesbrough and how they're going to turn it around. So I'm going to back them to get a 2-1 win this weekend at the Riverside. Let's move down into League One then. Ipswich versus Barnsley, league leaders. Ipswich Town looking really good under Kieran McKenna, currently unbeaten, top of the table, playing well. This is another chance for them to lay down a marker against the side relegated out of the Championship last season.
Absolutely, yeah. Potential home banker here, even in Ipswich. They've won their last 3 games on the bounce without conceding a goal. It's starting to look pretty ominous for the rest of the League One opposition. They're looking so strong under Kieran McKenna, particularly at the back. That defensive process was so watertight in the second half of last season. And after I think it took them two or three games to pick up their first clean sheet, but they're now starting to show that solidity that they showed last term. Janoy Dynastian has been one of the standout players in League One so far, bombing on from a right centre back role. Ipswich have been able to create chances with more regularity than they were last term. So yeah, I'm feeling very hot on them at the moment. I think they're playing like a side at least that I think would probably stay up in the Championship with their current squad and manager. So yeah, it's a really tricky away day for Barnsley after they were defeated 3-0 at home by Wycombe Wanderers last weekend. Easily, probably for me anyway, the best team in League One on current form.
Let's talk about Barnsley then. You mentioned they're a 3-0 defeat last weekend. I think it's probably fair to say that they've been hit and miss so far in League One under Michael Duff. I think it's 2 wins and 3 defeats, and they're in sort of the lower mid-table. And when we did our Barnsley preview on the channel during the summer, that was where they were expected to be and where a lot of fans expected them to be. They've had a fixture since the Wycombe defeat. They got beat 3-1 at Leeds in the League Cup on Wednesday. Played reasonably well, it's got to be said. Just undone by a little bit of Premier League quality, I think. But sometimes putting in a performance like that against superior opposition can leave you a little bit leggy, which is hardly ideal heading to the league leaders this weekend.
Yeah, this isn't the fixture in the calendar where you want to have significantly less recovery time than your opposition. Barnsley's squad is that their depth is okay for League One level. I'm sure Duff has certain areas that he'd like to strengthen between now and the end of the window, but they did field a pretty strong side at Leeds. So yeah, that they are going to have more miles in their legs heading into this one. Yeah, they've been hit and miss as maybe we expected after losing as many games as they did last season. It was going to be really difficult to shift that mentality so quickly for Michael Duff. I do believe that he will be able to in the end, but it's potentially something of a transition season for the Tykes. Of course, there will probably be rumblings around the futures of Michael Hellick and Callum Styles right up until the transfer deadline as well. So yeah, this is at the moment probably the toughest fixture in the calendar in terms of the whole League One season at the moment. And yeah, coming off the back of a 3-0 loss at home to a Wycombe side that have started the season pretty poorly by their usual very high standards. It's going to be a really difficult afternoon.
Let's get your prediction for this game then, Marcus.
I'm going 2-0 Ipswich, another clean sheet for the Tractor Boys. I've been really impressed with them in the final third as well. I think they can do a professional job on, as you say, potentially a Barnsley side a little bit leggy.
Yeah, I think you said right at the top of this piece, something of a home banker. So I've gone with a home win. I've gone slightly narrower with 1-0, but can't really back against Ipswich at this moment in time. Another intriguing clash across the division then between Derby and Peterborough. Derby, for all kinds of reasons that we all know about, are going to be a really interesting watch this season. There's a lot of positivity around the club, but this is a tough game for them at Pride Park against the Peterborough side, who are second only to Ipswich, who we've just been talking up moments ago. The Pride Park atmosphere has been fantastic. The Derby fans are really backing Liam Rossini's side. How crucial do you think they're going to be in this fixture, Marcus?
Yeah, very important. It was a Louis Sibley injury time winner, I think, in a 1-0 win over Posh last season. We sort of carried on, giving the Ram supporters hope that the great escape was on. It's going to be really interesting to see how this one pans out. It usually is when we see fellow sort of newly relegated sides take on each other. They should be able to establish control in this, and I think McCann might be comfortable letting Derby have more of the ball. With the technical players that they've got in the middle of the park, the likes of Max Bird and Conor Hourahan, it's very hard for some teams to live with them in terms of the share of possession that they would like to have. But then you look at that Posh forward line and the way that they could hurt them on the counter attack is looking seriously dangerous. There is a lot of home advantage with the Pride Park home crowd, and they have been fairly strong at home so far. But as I mentioned, Posh are flying, and they've flown out of the blocks already. They did lose, I believe, their last game on the road at Plymouth, but I think they should be able to bounce back here. I was surprised to see Derby odds on to win this one, actually, considering how Posh have started the season.
You've just been talking up Ipswich as the best side at the minute in the division, and that's reflected in the league table. Peterborough have been good though, and you mentioned their forward line. How are you kind of rating them after 5 games then? And are you expecting them to be the real deal this season in League One and a top 2 contender?
So far, definitely automatic promotion contenders. I think the sort of the club that we put closest to Ipswich, and at least it was like that in the heading into the season, was Sheffield Wednesday. Fancy to finish right up the top end. I don't think they've quite hit their straps. A lot of their victories, they've tended to grind them out a little bit over the course of the season. With the squad that they've got, I think they will probably have enough to get above Posh. It's the defence that you worry about for Grant McCann's men. They're the joint highest, joint top scorers in League One alongside Pompey. And if they can keep Johnson Clark Harris fit, it would be a surprise if he didn't go on to win the Golden Boot for me. But it's defensively that you worry about them a little bit. They have been conceding goals very freely at times. And that's maybe an area of the pitch that they haven't invested as much in as they have the forward line. So I'm feeling very positive about them being in and around and with a chance of automatic promotion for the majority of the campaign and at least a top 6 finish. But it remains to be seen if they can really hold down against sides like Derby and shut up shop when they need to. I think potentially flat track bullies in League One playing the bottom half side. I can see them sort of racking up some comfortable scorelines as they did in a 4-0 win at Lincoln last week, given their attacking talent. But against those kind of sides in and around them in the division, I think that they're going to find it tough.
Let's get your prediction then, Marcus.
So I'm going for a 2-2 draw here. I respect the way that Derby are playing under Rosinia. They haven't quite been able to catch fire in the final third. I think James Collins is still yet to open his account for the club in the league at least. But I think potentially this is the game to do it. I'm expecting a very entertaining one. So a 2-2 score draw.
Yeah, I'm backing Derby actually here. I think that at Pride Park, and as you mentioned, with the 2 clubs freshly kind of out of the Championship, they're always interesting games these. So I'm going to back Derby in a 2-1 victory. Let's move down into League 2 then and discuss Salford versus Stevenage. A real interesting fixture, I think, this one over at Salford. It's been a positive start to the season for Salford, and in a victory this weekend, I'll see them sort of pull themselves up alongside the early season pace setters in League 2, which of course includes Stevenage. We know all about how ambitious Salford and their owners are as a football club. Probably quite important then, Marcus, that they show up this weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a chance to lay a marker down and beat a side that's right up there. Stevenage coming into the match off the back of beating Peterborough in the League Cup as well. Little Steve Evans derby in the Carabao Cup second round. But I'm not as high on them as maybe the league position suggests. I think Salford have been very strong, particularly on home soil so far this season. 2 wins without conceding against Mansfield Town and Crewe Alexandra, 2 teams that Crewe have started the season very positively, and of course Mansfield expected to be up there as the season progresses. So a chance for Salford to really assert their authority. They are looking strong. under Neil Wood so far. And yeah, they do have some individuals in the side at least that are definitely playing like they're capable of playing above League Two level.
And you've just said that you're not that high on Stevenage as other people are. I'll talk them up a little bit. I think it's been a really good start to the season in all competitions. Slight surprise, but credit where it's due. Doing really well. Another win this weekend would be absolutely huge, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I am loving seeing Steve Evans going for promotion in League Two once again, particularly after the very difficult past 3 seasons for Stevenage, sort of battling to maintain their status in the 4th tier. It's just, for me, they've been relying on late goals. All 4 of their wins so far, their 4 wins and 1 draw from 5 League Two matches have been by a single goal margin. I'm not sure how sustainable that is in terms of having a positive season and competing for a playoff spot. I think they should be there or thereabouts, but in terms of automatic promotion and the sort of portion of the division that Salford will be looking at this season, or at least aiming to be in, I do think there is a difference between the 2 teams. So yeah, I'm enjoying Stevenage at the moment. I love Steve Evans, his record. He gets a lot of criticism, but for his antics on the touchline and things like that. But in terms of his record as a manager, you can't doubt it at all. I think Stevenage have got the right man in charge, and that they should be confident of competing against, when in full flow, definitely one of the best teams in League Two.
What's your prediction here then, Marcus?
I'm going for 1-0 Stevenage, Salford. Sorry, I just think that maybe a little bit of after Lord Mayor's show, after that late win at Peterborough in midweek. So yeah, I think Salford can lay the marker down and knock Stevenage down a peg or 2 with a 1-0 win.
I've got a 1-1 draw for this, and in keeping with what you've just said, Max, I'll go for a really late equaliser for Stevenage. Why not? That concludes our look at the pick of this weekend's fixtures. Thanks to Marcus for joining me, and thanks to everybody that's joined us across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. As always, we appreciate the support. Coming up on the channel next week, we've obviously got the fixtures to review. We've got the end of the transfer window as well, so it's going to be a busy week. So please do make sure you tune in to what we've got going on. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you some good shows, but between now and then, enjoy what you can of the transfer window and have a good weekend watching the football.